Welcome to E-Bits.
Good day. I'm Wynand Steyn. I am the Head of Department of Civil Engineering at the University of Pretoria. I'm also Chair of the School of Engineering, but for now I think it's important to focus on civil engineering because that's what you guys are interested in. Having said that, it's a good question to say, but what is a civil engineer? In a more detailed definition, we say that it's a professional engineer that design and construct and maintain physical and naturally built environment. Now that's a lot of words to actually just say we improve the lives of 58 million people in South Africa on a daily basis. That is your job as a civil engineer. And now you can still tell me, okay, but improving the lives of people, what does it mean? How am I going to do it as an engineer? I want to split it up in the sub-disciplines of civil engineering. If we start at the bottom, we've got a sub-discipline called geotechnical engineering. The geotechnical engineers are those ladies and gentlemen that looks after the soil. They look after what type of materials do we have to build anything that we are doing on top of. What's the strength of these materials? What type of soils do we get? How do we get from rock to soil to construct things with? They also look at things like earth-fill dams or tailings dams. They look at how water flows through soils because that affects the quality and the durability and the strength of the soil. So that's where we start, the people looking after foundations, because ultimately those are the engineers that know how to design and construct and maintain the foundation on which anything else stands. The next group of people are those that we call structural engineers. They look at how do we make our buildings. How do I design a tower block, a tower, a water tower, or even a house? How do I make it strong enough so that if I've got an earthquake or wind or rain or whatever type of live load, that this structure will be safe for a long period of time? Those are our structural engineers. So they put the structure on top of the soil. The next group of engineers, sub-discipline, is the water engineers. Those are the people who are responsible to firstly see where does the water come from. How do I get it sort of in a dam together, flowing down from a river? Once it's in a dam, how do I get it into a pipeline? How do I design this pipeline? How large must the pipes be? How do I get it to a reservoir? How do I clean the water? And how do I get the water all the way into your house? That when you get up in the morning, you open the tap and you've got clean, safe water to drink. And then they also look at what happens to the water afterwards, whether it's going down in stormwater drains or sewage systems. That's what the water engineer does. Looking after all of that, you have to get to a job or a school from a house. So you need transportation. Transportation engineers are looking after a wide set of sub-disciplines. You've got the people like myself that are road pavement engineers. We understand the properties of materials, different types of materials that I can use to build a road structure with, how to make sure that this road is in a good condition, how do I maintain it, and what is the effect of this road structure on the vehicles that travel on the road. Then I've got colleagues looking after rail. Same type of idea. You still need to build a structure on which the rail comes, on which the train is traveling. After building all of this, or an airport, we need somebody to look at the operations. How do I determine how many vehicles can travel on this road per hour? How do I determine how big an intersection must be? That's what the transportation engineers are doing. And they also look at public transport, how to move people, and freight transport, how to move the stuff that we buy and sell. So looking after all of those disciplines, that's what makes up a civil engineer. And that's in your training as a civil engineer, all of the aspects that will be covered. That's why I say a civil engineer makes life possible. So how do we do all of these things? We start off by designing infrastructure. I design a road, I design a building, I design foundations. Once it's designed, and I understand what the stresses and the strains and everything is going to be, then somebody must construct it. again, a civil engineer is involved in that process. Once it's constructed, you have to start to maintain it. You must make sure that it's a durable piece of infrastructure, that it can withstand sun and rain and anything that happens over its life. Somebody must manage it. Somebody must manage the transportation system, the way that vehicles travel or trains travel on a rail network. You can also decide to go into something called research, and that's where a lot of other different type of fun is, because that's where you determine what's new. How should we do it differently? How can we save money? How can we optimize the system? These days, you can also go into things like data analytics. We collect huge lots of data from civil engineering infrastructure, whether it's buildings where we've got sensors measuring what happens in the building, or a pipeline measuring how much water flows through the system, or a road where we measure what's the temperature of the road and how many vehicles travel on it, and what's the interaction between all of that. That's what a data analyst is doing. So, in order to become a person, civil engineer, that does all of these things, what do you need to know? How do you get to that point? That's when you come and study at a university, like the University of Pretoria, where we train you, firstly, the mathematics and the physics and the chemistry, because that's a foundation of all of these fields. But once you understand that, we train you how to look at the soil and understand what's the properties of the soil. Look at a material like concrete or steel or timber and determine, is this going to be strong enough to withstand the effects of the environment where I build this piece of infrastructure. And we teach you how to maintain all of these facilities in the natural environment. A road out there in the sun, a dam, a pipeline, how do I look after this? So, now you understand a bit more, what does a civil engineer do? What's the important stuff for us? Why would you like to come and study civil engineering at the University of Pretoria? Civil engineering is one of the departments in the School of Engineering, and we are part of the EBIT faculty, Engineering, Built Environment, and IT. We are the top number 277 engineering school in the world. And it's not us that say so. We think we are the best, but 277 in the world, I think, is good enough. Of all more than 15,000 schools internationally. So we provide you with top-rated education. We've got modern facilities. If you travel on the N4, traveling into Pretoria, look to the left, you will see Engineering 4.0, our brand new facility, which is beautiful, functional, and it's working, and that's where you will be trained in all of these aspects. And we've got various other facilities that's also state-of-the-art, that we also use in your education and teaching. The staff that will look after you when you come and study civil engineering at UP consists of 34 full-time staff members, 20 academic staff members, and 14 support staff members. I'll come to the academic staff members just now, but I just want to explain why is it important to have support staff, people that are in the laboratory available to teach you how to determine the properties of your soil and your steel and your timber, and how to actually construct experiments and determine whether that which you are interested in is going to be functional infrastructure, a very important part of training a civil engineer. The 20 academic staff members are all people that are well experienced in industry as well as academia. 7 of these people have been rated as national and internationally ranked researchers by the National Research Foundation. So they know what they are doing, and internationally people also think so. 16 of them are professionally registered engineers, which means that they can do professional work independently. 4 of them are fellows of the South African Academy of Engineering, and one of them is actually currently the president of the Academy of Engineering. So we think that that group of staff members can look after you very well and really make sure that you understand what happens in the life of a civil engineer. When you come to study, you will firstly do 4 years of undergraduate studies. During these undergraduate studies, we teach you maths and physics and chemistry and soil sciences and water sciences, structural engineering, road design, structure design, and we teach you all of the aspects of sustainability that keeps these different topics together. to make sure that you walk out of the University of Pretoria as a competent engineer that understands how to do a sustainable job wherever you are going to apply your trade. After you finish your undergraduate studies, you can also come and do postgraduate studies. And that's where you specialize. That's where you become a pavement engineer or a structural engineer, geotechnical engineer, and so forth. And where you can really focus on new research questions, developing new knowledge, which allows us to make the world a better place. There's a few very cool things that we've got at Civil Engineering, and I have to tell you about these. We are doing things where we remotely monitor various pieces of infrastructure around the country at this stage. We've got tailings dams in the Mpumalanga province, we've got a bridge in the Free State, and various other places, even some wind towers in the Eastern Cape, where we installed sensors to understand this infrastructure better, and this data remotely comes to our Central Engineering 4.0 building. That's the other very cool part. I told you about it earlier. But at Engineering 4.0, we centralize this data, and we do a lot of the laboratory testing and teaching and research where you will directly be involved. Then we are also doing things called a digital twin. A digital twin is where we use our LiDAR and our drones to collect infrastructure data, currently of the Hatfield precinct. We know exactly what the buildings and the roads and the pipelines and everything looks like. Then we install sensors. We measure how much water is being used. We measure the temperature, the CO2 levels. We measure the electricity consumption. And then we put all of this data together to understand infrastructure better. So, as a very specific example, I'm interested in roads. So we measure the surface temperature of the asphalt. And you can say, well, why is that important? Because the temperature of asphalt determines how strong it is, how durable the material will be. So if I see that the asphalt is very hot and there comes a rainstorm in the afternoon and the asphalt cools down very quickly, I can understand much better how to improve the quality of the asphalt to provide us with more durable roads. Then we also have various other sensors, some of them that we develop ourselves, some we procure. We call them a SMAVO, which is a smart avocado, and a smart tomato. And you can say, but why are you doing things like this? You are engineers, you are not farmers. We are using this type of technology to see what the impact of our civil engineering infrastructure is on the rest of society. So we are measuring, for instance, what's the effect of a road on transported tomatoes and avocados. Because if the road is in a bad condition, it is going to cause those produce to arrive at the market in a bad condition. And that's not good for the consumer or the farmer. So we are not only looking at pockets of information, we stand back and we look at the big picture and determine how do we make sure that your life is better because the infrastructure is better, it's well designed, it's well constructed, it's well maintained and managed, and we keep it operational for as long as possible. So I'm pretty certain that after all of that, you are very excited about this possible journey. So how do you become part of this journey? Firstly, you are still at school. Grade 8 to grade 12, work as hard as possible. Understand your maths, understand your physics, understand your English, because it's communication in the end. Pass well, and then you can enter this exciting 4 years of your life, of studying to become a civil engineer. Long hours of study, very little sleep, but after that, 40 years, 50 years of a journey where you change the lives of people. And I would love to see you along that journey. And me and my team help you to start it up in the most positive way that you can. I hope that you are excited about this and that we will see you one of these days on the campus of the University of Pretoria. Thank you very much.